Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the late start. My name is Sandra Sheffer Prevail. I am the president of the Democratic Women's Club of Greater Broward. And people have their mail-in ballots already. Early voting hasn't started yet in Broward County. It starts on August the 8th. And I know that people are probably still trying to make some decisions on who they want to vote for certain candidates. So I've asked some of them to come back. And I interviewed Ruby, but that was back in May or June or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was probably May.
Probably
May.
like the end of May. So we spoke back at the end of May. You guys got an introduction to her, but since you have some people have ballots in hand and others are getting ready to vote on Saturday, I wanted to bring her back to just in case you're still trying to decide who it is that you want to vote for. So I'm going to have Ruby Lenora Green introduce herself. She's the candidate for Broward County Public Defender.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Sandra, for having me here today. It's such a blessing. As you know, like you said, the vote by mail ballots are out, and only a few people have returned them. So return your ballots and mark me for the public defender. I am from Broward County. I currently work at the public defender's office. I'm a mother of a fabulous 13-year-old. Next month, she will be 14. She's already asking me about driving, learning how to drive and all of that stuff. And I literally am the first from my family of one of 15 siblings to graduate and go to college. I actually didn't believe that I was going to go to college because I didn't know anyone who had gone to college. I thought that I was going to work at McDonald's for the rest of my life. No one had told me any other way. And I actually had this guidance counselor who, her name is Patricia Skelton. I believe she works at North Broward Prep now. And she convinced me to go to school because she thought that I had good grades. And, once you're in 12th grade, you kind of talk to your guidance counselors and figure out what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. And that's something that me and her spoke about. And I literally told her, and I remember this day to the T, and I told her, I was just like, I'm going to work at McDonald's. My manager came to me and my manager said, we're going to pay for you to, take this managerial class and, become a manager at McDonald's. And I was really considering taking it. And, my guidance counselor, she really taught me out of it. And I applied to Florida State University. And I got into this program. It's called CARE, Center for Academic Retention and Enrichment Program. And it's for first generation college students. And I graduated from Florida State early, cum laude, within 3 of the 4 years. And then I went on to law school and graduated law school within 2 out of the 3 years. And my mom, for the longest time I had been, and I was even afraid to go to college because in the household, I was the sole document signer. So whatever papers that my sisters, even some of my older siblings, even, if they had brought things home from school, I would be the one to read and sign those documents. Now, don't do that, kids. You have to have permission and you're not supposed to be forging signatures. But it was my mom. She told me to do it. She couldn't understand. She couldn't read because she had to leave school early to pick beans, cottons, and strawberries in the field. So, and it's kind of crazy. A lot of people ask me, what do you mean she was picking stuff? And was she a slave? No, she wasn't a slave. Like just back then, it's not even that long ago. We still had fields here in Broward County and, we needed someone to work them. And more often than not, it was people of color or, foreign immigrants that had to do those jobs. And that was it. And, while I was actually in law school, I decided to work at the public defender's office. I was a volunteer. I was an investigator. And then I moved my way up to being a fellow and then a certified legal intern. And if you don't know what a certified legal intern is with the bar, you get clearance to actually practice law under guidance. So under like a supervisor or under the guidance of another attorney, you get to practice law that way via the Florida Supreme Court. They give you permission to do that. So that's what I did. And I tried cases as a certified legal intern. And then once I passed the bar, I worked at the public defender's office in Jacksonville. I did their Jimmy Rice unit, and I also did their misdemeanor unit. And then I transferred here to Broward County. And, I've been a supervisor and chief of county court here in Broward County. And I noticed that we need a lot of change. So that's why I'm running.
Yeah. So let's unpack some of what you're talking about, because I too was a public defender when I got out of law school. And so and I was a certified legal intern because, you know, I graduated in December, and while I got employed, I got hired before I actually.
Me too. I graduated in December.
Right. So I graduated in December because I too finished law school a little bit early, and so I graduated in December, and so but they hired me. I got hired, and I'm like, well, I ain't even no real lawyer yet because I haven't even taken it. But like, that's okay because we can practice for a year as intern with a certificate. And I also did public defender clinic when I was in law school too.
Yeah.
So I had that bit of experience. So I actually got a job, and I did that you know, before I passed the bar. And I took the February bar. So I was able to I took the
you rarely meet people, and this is a thing, folks.
Yes.
You rarely meet people that graduated. When we say early, that's early for us, because normally you have to wait all the way until what is it, May,
yes.
And then you study for that 2 months, and then you don't have to take the bar again until what, July, and then you get your results in September. And so when we graduated, me and you graduated December and took February bar. And then we get our results in April.
Yes, we get our results in April. And there's a bunch of stories with that. So but I actually went back to the graduation that I was supposed to graduate at because all of my classmates graduated with that. So I went to that graduation because I'm like, I was supposed to be walking with y'all, and I had already got some checks and everything like that. So that was definitely an interesting thing. And I too was, like I said, I did public defender clinic, but you stayed a public defender far longer than I did, because I just, and I also worked in Sarasota, Florida too, which is a little bit different. Yeah. And they try to put people in jail for everything, right? So I was one of the people that was just afraid of the jail.
That's like Broward County though.
I gotta go to jail for that, you know? Go ahead.
That sounds like Broward, to be honest.
Yeah, so it was like every time you turned around, you know, we had and I only made it, I did misdemeanors, so I did mainly, and in that particular area, so what you end up doing is a lot of domestic cases, and you have a lot of traffic cases and DUI, so that's what you end up doing. So, and usually the people are driving drunk, they get arrested, or if they have a domestic cases because they got drunk and then they started fighting with their partners and stuff like that. So, you know, that's kind of what it was. And then, you know, there was a lot of petty theft that happened there too, partly because all the businesses, they always prosecuted, you know, they had their signs up, like we prosecute shoplifting. So you'll have, you know, their loss prevention is really strong. So you end up having all these people that, you know, that have these petty theft charges. And again, I grew up in Miami. So in Miami, no one's going to jail for no petty theft. Like they're just not going to jail for that. In Sarasota, they're like, yes, you're going to do 10 months if you don't want to go on probation. And I'm like, 10 months for the stuff that Kmart got back? Like, are you serious?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'd say that all the time. Like, it irritates me because when people think about, like, people actually stealing and stuff like that, they think that these people, most of the people got away with it. They, you know, was able to leave the store. No, we got all these loss prevention officers nowadays that capture these people right on the spot, and then they still get charged.
Yes.
When they recover the items, like all the items, every single one of them.
And even if the story's sympathetic, like they just don't care. Like one of the cases when I finally was like, I'm not about this life, right? So I definitely appreciate people who work in the public defender's office and they stay for the long haul, because that's some serious commitment. I had this young lady who she was still in school clothes, right? Because the kids had to go back to school. She didn't have the money to for them to go back to school, and she was trying to steal school clothes. She didn't make it out the store because, again, they got all their stuff back. It was like $200-something worth of stuff, so it was petty theft. And we were able to, the offer was like 10 months. I was able to negotiate it down to like 5. She was really going to do like 3.5 months. But the thing is that we had to coordinate it because she wanted to at least see the children start school, and she wanted to get out before Christmas, right? So I'm like, you're really gonna take this woman away from her kids, and now she has to make arrangements for someone to take care of the children for the next 3.5 months as she spends time in jail for stuff the retailer got back.
And that's the problem that I have sometimes when it comes with this system. The problem that I have is we are taking people away from their families, and for the most part, it's of items that they need. And I'm not saying, I never ever went out and I'm never telling everybody, oh, stealing is right, everybody should steal. But nobody's saying that, but people are saying, like, please, what's going on here? They're taking items that they need, that's necessary, because we as society, I feel like it's every man for themselves. And so we're not assisting people when it comes to what they need in order to provide for their family. So if this woman, and I don't know this lady's history that you're talking about, but I know a lot of my clients, they have histories because they can no longer get a job. And whose fault is that? It's our fault, because we as the system, and everybody's included in this system, we as a system label them as criminals. And then when it's time for them to get a job, in order for them to be able to provide for their families, they have to mark off this box that says they're convicted or they've been arrested or something like that. And even though arrest and conviction does not go hand in hand, they're two separate things, but a lot of people don't know that. We still label them as a criminal, even if they've been arrested. But what if they've been arrested falsely, Yes. But they still have to put it on the, the job application, and then they end up not being able to get a job. And then they end up having to go to the store to take food or to take socks and shoes and items that their kids need, as opposed to them, like just giving them some type of diversion program to work it off in community service or something like that, because you didn't lose any money. Nothing. You just said that you got all the items back.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then the other thing too is, like you said, like about having a program, and when people are looking at like, oh no, is she not supposed to steal? And if you steal, there's supposed to be consequences or whatever. What we don't look at is that we're starting at the wrong point. I think we're starting at the person that's in the store feeling that they have no other choice but to go and steal these items. Yeah. When you think about like all the social services, all of the things that didn't happen along the way, right? Because you probably have this person who, like they're working, but they're, not making enough money. And everything's expensive, right? Like, they can barely pay rent. They can't get food. And, like, even if they try, they're like, okay, we're hungry. You go and you apply for food stamps. Sometimes they make you jump over 1,000 hoops for you to even just get the little bit of money. Or like while you're waiting, it's like, what do you do in the meantime? In terms of housing, people barely can afford to live in South Florida. Like, Sarasota is extremely expensive, right? Either you got a whole bunch of money or you living in the projects. And even when I lived there, I literally, like, my mother used to help me, and I didn't even have a car. All I had was like an apartment, right? I didn't have a car, and I'd be like, yo, mom, like, and not everybody's able, right? My mother worked in a hotel, but she's way better with money than I am. But, I'm just saying, I had a whole job, like, out of college, but by the time I paid rent and the this and the that and the third, I like, and then, remember, we get paid once a month. By that last week, I'm like, yo, I ain't got like no food, right? You know what I'm saying? So,
and that's what people don't understand either. Like when it comes to, especially public servant work, like, I'm a public servant, right? A lot of people that work at our office, we don't make that much of money. We don't make that much of money, especially when I was moving down here. Because I'm going to tell you, when I moved down here from Jacksonville, and Jacksonville is incredibly cheap. So the rent in Jacksonville was half as much as what it is here. And so when I came up here, I was in a shock, like, what, you want how much? And then they were like, oh, this is a low income place. This is a low income place. I'm like, okay, I made this low income, but I can't afford this rent. How is this rent, for low income people? At the time it was like $30,000 to start off for it to be a public defender. I'm like, that's nothing. That's nothing. Like, and then we have people who are struggling to eat, and you wonder why people are like shouting and raving about our minimum wages going up, because it has to. We have all the living costs, cost of living that's rising, but we can't get wages that people can actually be able to live off of. It's insane.
Yeah. And so you have like multiple families living in one home. You have people that are in roommate situations, even though they're working full-time jobs, having to do things every day. So the original point that I was trying to make about how like we only look at the person that's committing a crime, but we don't look at how society neglects to provide resources for these individuals. Because if they had just certain services in their life, it wouldn't come to that, right? Like if the person income is low and they really do need like food stamps or something like that so they can feed the kids, give it to them. If they can't, and most people don't even have jobs that offer health insurance. So if they need to go get Medicaid because they got like some sort of, they need like this health insurance for their kids, or they have a kid with special needs, don't make them jump through 1,000 hoops in order for them to get that service. If they need subsidized housing, like, I mean, the Section 8 list is probably like 10 years long or something like that. If it's that they need subsidized housing in order for them to be able to just like do the minimum things, because we can't go out the street with no clothes on. And I mean, she was still in that Kmart, so she wasn't even trying to do nothing fancy, right? So, you know, that type of thing. So if we had like these services
even Section 8 and subsidized housing, that's a sham too. I know plenty of people disabled. I know a mother who with 4 children, the mother is disabled and has been, and it's recorded. She's been disabled. She has an autistic daughter, and they allow people to jump over them that don't have any issues with them whatsoever. And listen, I'm all for everybody getting a place to live when it's their time or whatever. But when you have someone who had to state to you that they're homeless, and then they're disabled with 4 kids by a single parent and another kid that's also basically disabled, how are they still waiting to get a place to live?
Yes, and we have places that are being built like left and right every day. And then even if there is the space for it, a lot of the areas that still have space, I mean, the people like, yeah, y'all not building that over here, right? They're like, we're going to go change our neighborhood and have these folks that can't afford a regular rent living here. So we have all of this going on, right? Like we have all of these things that are just making it difficult for people to just exist. And then at the same time, you know, then we're trying to criminalize like poverty, and we're criminalizing hunger. I literally had someone to come to my house to help me put up shutters, and he was talking, and you know, we're just talking, and then he was talking about, I don't know how we got into this conversation, but he was talking about like when he was a kid, he used to go into the store, and again, we're not advocating for anybody to steal, right?
Yeah, we're not.
Go into the store, and he would like get like lunch meat, get bread, and by the time he left the store, he had a sandwich, and he said I'll be good for 2 days when I did that. And I'm just like, oh my God, right? So this is a man talking about like when he was a kid, his family just didn't have it, and like he would literally have to go into a store to like, you know, he's like, I ain't steal too much. I just took enough, you know, like I guess you get the order from the deli, whatever. But by the time he left the store, he had a sandwich that he ate, and he said he won't have to worry about food for the next 2 days, and hopefully, you know, he'll figure out some sort of feeding situation afterwards. Like, we're in America. Like these kind of things, we shouldn't have to hear these types of stories. I don't think.
We shouldn't. We really shouldn't. And the thing about it is that we hear about them every single day, and we see them on the streets too. Like it was like this whole, I remember by what avenue is that? So I think it's First Ave and Broward Boulevard. It was a whole bunch of homeless people on in that area. It was by like a women's center between like the salad bowl place and the women's center. And it was like a whole, and apparently they were like shooed from wherever they were. Apparently they had a different spot, and then they shoot them into that spot. And then now they tried to relocate them somewhere else, as opposed to us doing what we need to do in order to, you know, keep someone in shelter. Like, I feel like we have enough of the resources, but no one's doing enough. And especially when it comes to the criminal justice system, we're just shuffling people in and out of custody. So they go into custody, and then we throw them back out on the streets. And how is that helping them? Right. It's only creating a revolving door because of the lack of resources. And I talk to people about this all the time, and we need help. I've contacted other public defender's office, and there's a model that I really, really, really love, and it's with the Harlem Defenders in New York. And they have this holistic approach that basically helps with providing social services. So, you know, like somebody gets into jail, and then, you know, they're at risk to losing their housing. They have an aspect that can assist someone with their housing, like, you know, and not being able to lose it, or if they lose it, then finding something else for them. We need to be like that. Public defenders, we have so much work on us as it is. We need to hire social workers to advocate and to be at that office because we don't have any. And we can't look to public defenders to be your mom, your uncle, your grandma, your social worker, your case manager, your doctor. They look to us to be every one of those things. And that's how we get that label of overworked and underpaid, because we're doing so much at once, and this cannot go on.
Right.
We need to make sure that we branch out to other resources and assist those resources and hold hands with those resources and bridge that gap, so that we are not creating this system where people are constantly going in and out of custody for the same old thing, for situations such as homelessness or, whatever it is, them not being able to provide for their families because they don't have a job. We need to provide second chance jobs. There are plenty of programs. I think BSO even has one that assists people with finding jobs, out of custody, second chance jobs and stuff like that. We need stuff like that. And I don't understand why this hasn't been done, because that's that cycle that's going on and on and on and on and on in the criminal justice system. And we need to reduce recidivism. And the only way that we're going to do that is if we all work together with all of these resources.
Right. And you do need to change the person's life, right? Because if you're, again, sending them back to the same old situation, how is it ever going to be better? And that idea of like having social work in that office, I think is very important. I remember my father had Alzheimer's, and he got hurt. He went into the hospital. And there's like, this man can't go back home. We're like, wait, what? They're like, no, he can't go back home. So they had to find placement for him. So my mother didn't have to go and figure out where he was gonna go and live. They had a social worker at the hospital that said, we got this list of resources. We're gonna find the best placement for him, and he was put in a place to live because they realized that he couldn't go back home and he needed more care. And I think we should think of people who come into the criminal justice system because they're homeless and this and that. When you release them either on bond or with credit time served or whatever it is, you just send them back to the same old problem. You know that the reason why this person got arrested because they were sleeping on the park bench and someone was complaining about it. So where you letting them go back out to? Like you did absolutely nothing different from before they walked into that facility.
Right. And it's just, and it just goes, it's around and around and around and around. And I'm like, how did we not get that? And the only thing that I can think of people not understanding as to why we are here where we are right now is because we don't have anyone in the criminal justice system that has lived that life. And I feel like I lived that life, and I know what it is because, like I didn't get to this place just by myself. There have been many people in my life that have helped me and put me in positions so that I can do better, because I wouldn't have known otherwise. Like I said, I never knew anything about college. I didn't even think that I was going to go to college. All I knew is that I probably had to work. And the place that I was working at was McDonald's at the time. And I honestly thought that was the best job that I was ever going to get in my entire life. And I loved it. And, and just think about all the other people, or little girls or little boys that are limited in their thought process as to being able to have a career or what they can actually do in their lives. Because when you watch TV, and I watch TV a lot, and I of course on TV I'm like, oh yeah, like I like that. I want to be a lawyer, but I never thought that I would actually be able to be a lawyer just because I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought that was like our make pretend jobs, right? Being a lawyer is a make pretend job for me, and so that wasn't going to be my reality until someone else came along and they showed me that this could be my reality.
Right. So I'm not going to take credit for this word, but it's awesome that somebody recognized your superpower when you were young, right? And that's how you were able to, because we can't see those things in ourselves because we have no point of reference, right? But you had like, an adult in your life that saw that, no, this girl is going to do some good things. We see her superpower and we need to continue to guide her and push her forward. And I think, something similar like that happened to me. Like, you just had a teacher that kind of like, you wanted to go this way and they kind of ship you back. But I was still bad though, right? I still got, got suspicious wanted it when I was in high school. But even with that, so they still saw something like, no, you can still like go to college. You know what I mean? With all of these things. And it's so funny when you talked about watching television. I actually wanted to be like, okay, so I'm telling my age now, and most of y'all probably don't know, but there used to be a show called Quincy. They used to come out in the 70s, and he was like a medical examiner, right? And I'm like, yo, I want to be Quincy, right? And I remember I went into some scholarship interview, and I told the people I wanted to be Quincy, right? And they're like, you want to do what? I was like, yeah, I want that job, right? So he was a forensic pathologist. They hooked me up with like this internship or whatever, so I was able to, do some similar stuff. And then, and then I had people that was like, no, you can go to college. And I said, well, I was like, I can go to college. And luckily for me, I actually had an older sister who and I'm not gonna call out the name of the schools, but it just took them a long time to finish. They stayed local, and they just got distracted, and they just couldn't seem to just get out of school. So I was like, well, I have that example. I know I can't stay, so I need to leave to go, because because for me, I thought once I left, I would have the pressure of like, I can't go back home without a degree. So that's why I left, right? But luckily, but again, I had that example. So we did have a lot of people who recognized our superpowers and saw that and kind of pushed us along the way and gave us like good advice for us to be here. And I'm also one of those people who believe that representation matters, right? So they do need, so people need to see folks like you in these kind of positions coming from the neighborhoods that, that we came out of. Because I grew up in Liberty City. It's more Little Haiti now. I grew up in that neighborhood. And when I go back and they're just like, people like, they're like, oh yeah, that's a, when they see my mom, they're like, yeah, she's the one with the daughter that's a lawyer. And it's inspiring, because then, and half the time when my mom introduced me, she's like, yeah, that's my daughter, that's a lawyer. I was like, but you did name me Sandra, right? Like, you gave me a whole name. So
it happens to me all the time. But you want to know what? Like, that they are taking pride into, what we've been able to do, based upon where we come from. And I truly believe in giving back. And it's kind of like, not that we're celebrities when we go back home, but I do consider it being able to be a role model to young girls who look like us, who, essentially came from nothing. Like when I was growing up, there was nobody that lived on my same street that had more than 10 people, that had less than, 10 people living in the same household. And these were 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom homes, maybe 500 square feet. We didn't know anything like that. And for us to, I used to talk to a lot of people about, mandatory minimums and why we need to get rid of mandatory minimums because of the discretion, and, the discretion lies solely with the state. And, we have recently got into our office some cases on mangoes, and they charge those people with burglary dwellings. And I have to let people know that with a burglary dwelling, you automatically score prison, for one. But if you have a certain designation, you could be at risk to facing a mandatory minimum, and nobody can waive that mandatory minimum but the state. But it brought me back to growing up where, sometimes we didn't have lunch or dinner, and mangoes is something that we used to go to anybody's tree that we can find, and take the bitter sweets off the tree, or take a mango off a tree, or whatever kind of fruit they had on the tree, and eat that.
Yes.
So it's just like, it just really pained me to see those types of cases. Like, for real, I understand you don't want someone in your yard, but you charging them with the highest crime possible, which is a burglary dwelling. You want somebody to go to prison, because like you that scores. Once you say burglary dwelling, that's mandatory. That's prison right there. You can try and get a downward departure if the person doesn't have a certain designation. But something as simple as a mango, that hurt my heart. And because they could have simply done like a trespass. I understand. Nobody wants somebody to come in their yard, take their things. I understand that. But when it comes to mangoes or any type of fruit off of the tree, that really got to me. It really did.
And that's why, so, there's also a state attorney race this year too. And there's a whole bunch of candidates that's in that race. And that's why that particular position is also extremely important, because, even, the crime sounds like crazy, like, oh, it's burglary of a dwelling. And then when you get down to the facts, you be like, yo, they took a mango off a tree. And
Yeah.
can you imagine a person that has to go to prison they be like, yo, dog, why you in prison? Yeah, I kind of stole some mangoes off a tree. Can you imagine
Right.
you disrupted this person's life because of that? And again, we're not, I just hope people don't think we're like advocating people to commit crimes and anything like that. But at the end of the day, it needs to be some common sense in what it is that we're doing. And then before you give somebody such a strong label, you want to know that, you would want to think that once a person hears that the reason why this dude is about to go to prison for 5 years or whatever was because of a mango, we'd be like, no, our system is broken. There's absolutely something wrong with society when we think that's a problem,
Right. Right. That's what I try and get people to understand, because that is the main goal. Like, like we all don't come from the same backgrounds. And just like you said, Sandra, we are not advocating for anyone to still commit any type of crimes, anything like that. We're just talking about the reality is that there are some crimes that why are we punishing people for? And when we think about it, the people that have to pay for people to sit in jail on stuff as crazy as this is us. And that's why I try and say that whatever affects one individually affects us collectively, because you, as the taxpayers, are paying $146 per day per person that's sitting in custody on stuff like this, on taking mangoes out of a tree, on sleeping on a bus bench after, when they tell you to leave or something like that, all because you're homeless, just things, panhandling, you sitting out by the road because you don't have any money and you asking people for money, you can get picked up for that and go to jail. I was talking to some other person, and they were saying how, because sometimes, most often, cities are split. Okay, you might have a good side, you might have what they call the bad side, and more often than not, there are some robberies and stuff that officers try and attend to on the bad side, what they call the bad side, and then they'll get calls on the good side saying, oh, someone's in the street asking for money. But what's more important? Really? You want to call the officer from a robbery or a serious case that's coming, from a different part of town, to go to the good part of town and take someone off the street because they was asking for some change.
Yeah. So you even say asking for change. So so I had a relative, I was told that I'd be telling my family business, but I had a relative that worked for BSO, and they would get calls to say like, yeah, there's a guy that's walking down the neighborhood and he just don't look like he belong here. and they're like, so what is he doing? Nah, he just walking down the street. Is he doing anything? Nope. I just kind of know he don't live here. He don't look like he live here, and I need the police to come. And he was like, once they got the calls, they used to have to send somebody out because somebody called to say that this person don't look like they should be on this street, and that's insane, right? Like, and that's the kind of things that are happening. And this person, and and you might be offended, and then all of a sudden you get offended, and then now you're in a confrontation with the cop, and then you go, got arrested, and now the public defender's office have to, represent this person, or maybe not, because somebody called and said that they don't look like they belong on the street, and they took offense to that, and basically
right. When that's what gets me, like, and there are more important things. Okay, like that is obviously some type of stereotyping, some type of prejudice, some type of racism, some type of implicit bias. And when it comes to that, need I even go into that? Because we already know that people of color are being arrested and sentenced 3 times as much as their white counterparts for the same crime. And I talked about this with someone else, like, I go to schools and I talk to students at schools, and I love to do that because I want to see their point of view about my job. Okay. Because a lot of people feel like, oh, you're a public defender, you represent bad guys. And, and I try and give them a story about, first of all, I am a defender of the Constitution. And when I defend the Constitution, I try and play games with them. I'm like, okay, like say, you had a ring under your bed. Your friend who comes over to your house all the time had this ring, and it's their ring. They put that ring under your bed. You had no idea that ring was stolen. All of a sudden, cops come to your house, see the ring under your bed. You get charged with that crime. I'm going to be representing you because you can't afford an attorney, because you're a kid. I'm pretty sure you don't have the money.
Mhm.
What are you going to do? Do you still think that you deserve to be represented by someone? So, and that's why I try and tell people, like, with our system, you're presumed innocent until you're found guilty. But a lot of people don't think the system is that way. They think it's the reverse. You get arrested, they think that you're guilty. And when I do jury selection, I always try and tell people with some type of hypothetical as to how we can't basically judge a book by its cover, and that presumption stays with us, the accused,
Mhm.
if and until the prosecutor can remove that cloak of innocence. So we don't have that burden. It's the prosecutor that has that burden. So if they're charging you with something, they have to prove it. And the moral to the story is when I go to different schools to talk to the kids, some of the kids will, get arrested for just about any and everything. If their shoe untied the wrong way, they can get arrested. Then I go to the other part of town and they're saying, no, the officer just took me to my mom's house,
Mhm.
and let me go and told me this is a warning. And I'm like, how can they do this way on this side of town, but on this side of town, you got to go to jail, or you got to go through the system, all because you look a certain way. And it happens all the time, and we have to get rid of sentencing disparities because it really hurts families. And this has been a long time, where we know that the criminal justice system has been used to manifest certain Jim Crow laws. And yes, I'm taking it way back there because I truly believe that people of color, the criminal justice system created a caste system, and people of color are second-class citizens, and that is how it has been, and this is why we're seeing the sentencing disparities that we've seen. So
Yeah, and it's important to have people like you in the office, because it is, so I talk about representation matter, and I also think it's important for people to be able to relate to the things that are happening, right? So you'll have someone who's in the office who just won't believe that the person stole a mango because they were hungry, right? Or they won't believe, they're like, no, that's impossible. Like, you have a mom, don't you? Didn't she give you something to eat? Like, why you out here? Or they won't believe, or because they've never known anyone that went to Publix and stole a whole sandwich, ate it, and then left because they were hungry and they hadn't eaten in 2 days. Like, they just can't relate to that experience because they don't know people that are hungry. They don't know kids that are like literally raising themselves because their mom or dad or whoever is working 2-3 jobs, or they're living in a house that's so disruptive. They can't relate to that experience, right? And so you do need people in the office who can see that. I actually was I was in an interview the other day with a client, and she told this story, and I knew that the officer didn't believe her. And the thing was, like, the story that she was telling, I had the similar experience, and I'm sitting there like, he doesn't believe her. And what she's telling, I know that those kind of things happen. And I was like, that's why you really do need to have like a diversity, not necessarily only in color, but also a diversity in experience, diversity in where people grow up, because some things might just sound incredible to one person, and the rest of us be like, yep, it kind of goes down like that, right?
It does.
Go ahead.
And for the longest time, and I tell people this, for the longest time when I go to court, there were unless you knew me, and unless you've already talked to me, and I basically told you what my role was, but never got to be the attorney, never got to be the anything like a public defender. I always got called a clerk or a court reporter or a probation officer. And it's just these roles and these gender roles and stereotyping and all the things that we play in the criminal justice system, it really affects us, and it affects our clients as well. I had a funny situation. Some clients will come in for violation of probation, and they'll be like, Judge, I can never reach my probation officer. Can't reach him. Can't reach him. Nobody believes them. I mean, I believe them because I've called probation officers, and I called whatever pretrial officers or whatever. They don't answer. I can't get them to contact me back either. I email them. I can't get them to contact me back either. And so but me and my client, we look like the little liars, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then it's so funny because recently I remember I was on a Zoom court and one of the prosecutors was like, oh, I can't get in contact with the probation officer. Oh, so your word is golden,
Yes.
when you say you can't get in contact with them. But all these times where our clients for years and years and years have been saying they can't get in contact with their probation officers or pretrial officers or this, that, and the third, and nobody wants to believe them.
Yes, yes. No, it is true. And I have we can go back and forth with all these stories. And I had a situation too. And then I was like, I'm not going to go talk to them people because they're not going to believe me. And I was like, and the outcome literally was going to be based on whether or not they believed what I was saying. And right. I'm like, and imagine, like, I got all kinds of degrees. I'm like educated. I thought I played by the rules. I did everything that they told me to do. And I'm still like, I'm going to walk into a room and the people have to decide whether or not they're going to believe that I'm telling them the truth or not, right? Which is like, it's incredible, but that's
even
really
though we're called basically, even if we're basically called officers of the court, right? Me and you, we are attorneys. We're supposed to be officers of the court, but because of what we look like, no one's gonna take our word over someone who looks differently. I'm sorry.
And that's unfortunate. And I think it's really important that you're running for this position because I do believe that just that personal experience, just understanding the community that a lot of the people who end up in the courtroom looks like, it will make a difference because some things that they're going to say to you or say to, the assistant public defenders will ring true because you have like that experience and you can relate. Because I've been to court a number of times and I've seen just like sitting back and I just seen kind of like what some of the judges were doing and how like they would handle a case with one particular person and then do it very different from someone else. And I'm just like, this is crazy, right? So another, the other set of elections that are important are there a lot of judges on the ballots too this time. So you got to be real careful and pay attention to who it is that you're voting for because you may put a judge in place that's not necessarily going to do what's best for the people that are
we have to do our research, like we have to stop saying, oh, we're going to go ahead and follow behind off of what other people are following behind, like, I seek advice from people, but there are times where I'm like, okay, I still have to look this person up because, some people have ulterior motives as to why they want a person over another. And I truly believe in making sure that you can, we at this day and age, we got access to internet galore. We got it on our phones. We got it at home on our computers. We can go to I don't know if the libraries are open right now, but, as much information as we can, please tell people or ask people why you vote for this person. Why would you want to vote for this person? What is it about them that makes you believe that they're the best person for this position? Because we have a lot of shady people out there, a lot of shams, and I'm just gonna say that to be real. And people just don't have your best interest at heart. And, I've said this plenty of times at, some other forums, just because all skin folk ain't kinfolk, they're not everyone has your best interest at heart. And so you have to really, really, really do your research and find out who is for you and who is going to do who's going to hold themselves accountable, because we always like to say, oh, make sure everybody else hold these people accountable. But no, we need to be able to hold ourselves accountable, because once we say something, we need to be able to do it. We can't be out here politicking. Right. Politicking needs to be over. All these politics
you're not going to keep or can't keep, right?
Right. And it's just like, it's necessary, like, especially when it comes to my race, right? I can't sit up here and say, yeah, I'm gonna change all these laws and stuff. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can go and advocate. I can go talk to the state reps. I can go talk to Congress people. Anything I want to do, but I can't change laws. Neither can the state attorney can't change any laws either. So if you hear people that are, talking about certain things, please be sure to research what their job description is and make sure that they can do whatever it is that they're saying that they can do. Because more often than not, we're basically stuck, especially in my position, the state attorney position, stuck at following the law as it is. Now, I consider myself a great defense attorney, but I can tell you that there are laws that I'm bound by for my ethical duty and for my bar card that I can't, just overlook. I can't just file whatever single motion you want me to file just because. I literally have to make sure that you have grounds for this motion in order to file it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then for people who want to know about some of the candidates running for judge, we actually do have a video that's on this page that's called Judging the Judges. And one of the attorneys that I know in Broward County who practices all the time, he kind of helped me put it together, and he has some recommendations, and give you and we actually talked about all of them, their pros and cons, and then you can decide who you want to vote for if you need some help on deciding what judicial candidates that you want to pick for the race. All right, so tell us now. So, we've been talking for a long time, giving people just kind of feel for who you are, for your passion. And I did want to make one other point. When you talked about the neighborhood you grew up in, the school board had a meeting one of those days, and because they're doing a race thing, because race and all of this reform that we're talking about is a real big deal. And they were talking about some of the history of Broward County and about those neighborhoods, right? So like West Park is one of the historically Black neighborhoods, Northwest Fort Lauderdale, and I guess Kaya City, that's the area of Pompano. Those areas were created for Black people in order for them to be service workers so they can live close to their employees, right? Because they worked, either near the beach or, in these areas, and that's what those neighborhoods were created for. And you would think that more would have been invested in those communities, but instead that's not what we have. They're over-policed. I mean, and they still seem to be communities of maybe working class people.
And in Kaya City is where I grew up. I grew up in Kaya City. My mom still lives in Kaya City. And, and we used to have raiders in our neighborhood all the time. Of course, just like you said, Sandra, they're over policed. There are 3 jails that basically are surrounding Kaya City. 3 jails in Kaya City. Why would they put the 3 jails in Kaya City?
Yes, that's a lot. That's a lot. And that's really one of the things. That's a lot, and it is over police. And I can go on and on about the few people that I did represent when I that were from Broward County and got arrested in Pompano, and it was all like some police sting operation, something, and some of the people didn't even really have no criminal history like that.
We called them the jump out boys growing up, the jump out boys.
Yeah, the jump out boys. Yes,
or the po-po.
yes. So all of that. So let's talk about what it is that you want to do for the office, and how do you see yourself being able to implement some of the changes that you want to, or some of the policies that you want to bring to the PD's office.
Well, for the public defender's office, like I said, I was mentioning that holistic approach, but I really want to make sure that our clients have more access to jobs, housing, substance abuse, and mental health treatment beds. A lot of people don't understand, and they might say, oh, we have some of these things. We have some diversion programs. We don't have enough. We don't have enough diversion programs. There are certain diversion programs that we should have been had. I know I attempted to create one when I was chief of county court, but the prosecutor's office was not in agreement with creating, and it was for marijuana, by the way. Marijuana, which basically should be legal at this point.
Some people getting rich off of it now.
Yeah, and that's exactly why they don't want to do it. They're getting rich off of it. They don't want to. That's why they don't want to do it. They don't want to decriminalize it. And so I want to make sure that we have more access to that. We don't have enough mental health beds, and we have officers, and people have to understand that a police officer should not have all the roles that they have now. Someone who's mentally ill, we can't keep calling the cops on our people that are just mentally ill. They have a problem. That's not the officer's problem, because what they normally do is arrest them and take them to jail. That's not what we should be doing. We don't need to be doing that. We're just providing officers with all these jobs and creating issues for ourselves. And then we say, oh, but I ain't really want them to be in jail that long. I ain't really want them to do it. What do you mean? You called the cops on them, right?
Yes.
So this is what's going to happen. This is the consequence of you calling the cops on someone who's mentally ill that ain't really even doing anything. But you can't control them at that point because maybe they don't have their medications or something like that. So we need to figure out other avenues. And so that's what I'm going to be working on with the mental health court, making sure that we have other avenues, that instead of the police being involved, making sure that we have some type of crisis team that can come out and affect the situation, either take them to some type of Baker Act facility and stabilize them. That's all it is. I have plenty of clients that that are in jail right now who got shot by officers and they had mental health issues. That's all it was. So they were going to the officer. The officer was basically like, you know, stand down or whatever, because they were coming out of the store and they thought they had robbed them. But they were coming out of the store, and then like my client basically said, "Can I give you a hug?" to the officer. That right there should have been like, "Oh, you know, I know this dangerous, and I know, you know, you don't know this boy, you know, and he could have something." And you know, you thought maybe he would have robbed somebody or something like that, or he took something. He asking you for a hug and he gets shot, you know. So these types of
and
things,
get arrested. He got shot and get arrested.
and get arrested. But you know, that's what they do. They shoot you and then they arrest you because you doing something bad. So they had to shoot you or whatever, so that they can get themselves immunity and they can get themselves cleared as to not shooting you, and they can't get sued. And you know, it's a whole thing. I can go on and on about the way that things work, that we see here in the criminal justice system that isn't right. But this is what we see every day. But so, you know, going into that situation, that's what I want to really do. I want to provide social workers, as I spoke about, for the office. And my number one goal is boosting our office morale. At the office, the attorneys have way too many cases. You know, they are overworked. A lot of people do not feel joy in the work that we do anymore. A lot of people have to work second jobs at night. We need to get that over with. We need someone in Tallahassee, in which I would be, you know, going to Tallahassee, advocating for funds from our legislature to the office, and getting funds from elsewhere, trying to find other grants and stuff. Like I said, I've spoken with other offices in the ways that they've been able to get extra monies. And I really, truly believe that we can keep experienced attorneys at that point. Our office and the people in the community do not have faith in us because they don't believe that we can represent them the way that private attorneys can represent them, which is not true. We have some amazing attorneys. The problem is that we lose a lot of the experienced attorneys. And so when we lose the experienced attorneys, and then we have to replace them with people who don't have as much experience. And, you know, a lot of people don't feel comfortable with that. And sometimes I can tell you the attorneys don't feel comfortable with representing people with not having the same experience. Because if you have an attorney who is now a lead attorney by default, because everybody keeps leaving, you know, and they're charged with representing someone who's facing life in prison, you know, and they've never tried a felony case before. Are you going to be scared? Yeah. And you're going to be afraid for your family members in order to, you know, you're thinking that, oh, they're going to go down. Like they don't know what they're doing, you know. So that's something that I really want to provide. And I want to make sure that I promote criminal justice reform. That means going to my legislatures. We need to make our legislatures, our state reps, anyone that we can, understand why sentencing disparities is wrong, why, and we need a tracking system for that. And that's what I'm going to create, making sure that we track every single case that pleads out, and every single case that goes to trial, and every single case that's sentenced, and see what those disparities are. And, you know, advocating against mandatory minimums, because that's going to be an important thing, because I truly believe that judges should have some discretion as to what happens in a case, as opposed to leaving the mandatory minimums, the discretion, to the prosecutors. Because sometimes I get judges that would really love, you know, to go below guidelines on a case, you know, because they have some extenuated circumstances and what we call mitigators, but they can't do anything because you know, the state attorneys, you know, basically are the ones that can weigh the mandatory minimums, and they're the only ones that can do that. So I really want to make sure that, you know, we're fighting for the things that matter, which is criminal justice reform. And criminal justice reform has been the highlight of the year, especially with what's going on with the George Floyd and all the other deaths that we have seen. But I also want to let the community know that I am the only person in this race that's actually a champion for the cause, that's going out there, going to court every day, that has a caseload, that represents people, that goes to jail to see clients. And I'm the only person in the race that has tried a case, a lot of cases, within the last 20 years. Nobody else in my race has tried any cases for a very long time. So you need someone that can both advocate for you and also has managerial skills. I've been in the administration. I've been a chief of county court, and I know the attorneys love me because I did a lot of things that the office actually told me not to do, such as train the attorneys. We need to train attorneys. We were told not to train our attorneys, and it didn't make any sense to me, but I still did it anyway because I know that we can't just throw new attorneys into a situation and expect for them to be able to swim and not drown, especially when they've never represented people a day in their lives.
And there's a lot at stake, you're right? There's a lot at stake. So you don't want someone to go in the room and start practicing on a real person that got like real life problems, right? So you would want the person to have an idea of what it is that they're doing. There's some situations that you can be in that you can kind of learn like with trial and error. But when you're talking about people's freedoms and liberties that's being at stake, that's not the situation where somebody should be able to practice.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like, even though the minimum penalties for a misdemeanor is 364 days in jail, that is a long time.
Yeah.
That is a long time for you to sit up there and say not to train. And they didn't even want me to go to courtroom with my attorneys. And I was just like, wait, I'm a chief, at that. So why wouldn't I go to court with my attorneys? First of all, when I went into court, the judges respected me, the state attorneys respected me. And I could show my attorneys what to do. And regardless of them telling me not to do it, I still did all of that because I saw that the attorneys needed that, to see this. They needed to someone to show them how to act in court, how to be a zealous advocate. They needed to see how to do a trial. I did all my any trials that I had with my attorneys, I did them with them. I sat right next to them and did the trials with them. Any motions they had, I sat right next to them and did motions with them. Any trials that they had that I started pairing them up, I was right there in the gallery with them, sending them text messages of what to say, so that's what we need. We need some camaraderie like that, and we don't have that right now. And, that's what I mean to bring back to the public defender system. So on August 18th, everyone vote green for change to be seen.
Starting now, you can vote for, starting now, because people are doing vote by mail, early
vote by mail, yes.
It's August the 8th until about the 15th or the 16th, and then
August the 8th, the 16th, and then the August the 18th is the actual election day.
And the last day that you can vote. So you got to do something before that, right? Because after the 19th, it will be too late, right? So August 8th.
And actually, August 8th is the last day to request your vote by mail ballot, I believe.
Yes. But vote by mail is getting kind of, it's getting close. There's all kind of stuff, going on with the post office. And I definitely encourage people to just vote, right? If you're coming to vote by mail, do it early. So it gives you an opportunity to be able to track your ballot to make sure that, that they received it, it counted and everything like that. So you're going to be vote by mail. You definitely can do that because you can track your ballot. So, but make sure you do it early. And then early voting starts in Broward County on the 8th. If you want to do that, avoid the crowds, the long lines, go ahead and do it that way. And the last day you will have an opportunity to vote for any candidate in any of the races is August the 18th, 2020 for the primary elections. Anything else you want to add? I know that you have like some, opposition in your race. Anything else you want to tell us that sets you apart from the other people that are running against you?
Just like I said, I'm the only person in the race that has a caseload courtroom that's actually a public defender that's actually in the trenches. I know I have some opponents that are a lot older than I am, but it really isn't about age for me. I truly understand what it is to be a public defender. I think that we don't need to be relying on the age factor. I believe that Michael Sachs, actually, he was 32 when he became the state attorney. And a lot of people want to talk about how old I am and, whether or not I can do this job with the budget or whatever. Nobody in my race has had a job or business that manages the amount of people that we have at the public defender's office, which is about 110 attorneys and about the same amount of staff and a $23 million budget. Nobody else, nobody else has done that. And I've been president of two major of actually the biggest organizations here in Broward County of the Bar Association, the TJ Reddit Bar Association, and I'm currently the president of the Broward Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. Nobody else who's running has been president of big organizations who have also managed over in the TJ Bar Association about 300 attorneys, and in the Broward Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers about 250 attorneys with big budgets. So I believe that I'm the best for the job. Like again, I would say, and I would urge you to please read up on us, and you can see what I can do in that. I'm way ahead of my time when it comes to being.
But it's the right time, and you'll be ready day one. That's what we all want, right? We want people that's ready day one. That's not folks that's going to get ready one day. And so, based on what you're saying, you believe that you're going to be ready on day one to take over this job.
Yep, day one. I love that. Day one, not one day. Yep.
Day one, not one day.
Well, listen, everybody else is all rusty and dusty, and I'm not, okay? Right. I wouldn't have to relearn how to do any trials or anything like that. I wouldn't have to relearn how to be a manager of any type of person when it comes to that. In fact, I feel like I'm the best manager of the people, because I am transparent, and I and open, and people feel as if they can come to me and tell me things, and we can discuss it together. And I'm a true leader that will sit there with you, hand in hand, and figure things out together, and fight the state and the judges and whomever else we have to fight, and the legislation together. So that's just me in a nutshell.
Right. And it's awesome because this is definitely a time of like a lot of reform. People are looking for like a lot of diversity in every positions, because there have been folks that's been holding positions and running things and making decisions about people that don't look like them, that don't have the same experience as them, don't even share the same ideology. And now the country is looking for it, right? They're looking to get people in these positions that's going to make the best impact. And I think this is a very awesome time to be part of that push, right? And we have a lot of young people are running for different positions. We have a lot of women of color. We just have a lot of women, period. There are a lot of people in the LGBT community that are running for different positions, because that voice needs to be heard, and it needs to be part of the system. Right.
And may I add, I will be the first woman. And, I don't talk about this, all the time, because, I don't think that just because I'm a woman, you need to vote for me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying and telling you that this is history in the making as well. Like, I will be the first woman in the history of Broward County to have this position. First Black woman in the state of Florida. But on August of 18th, it will be exactly 100 years since women were able to vote in this country. So, it's important, and it's history in the making.
All right, then. So you make your closing remarks, and then, we'll let the people go back to having dinner, what it is that they're doing.
Thank you all so much for listening to me. I truly hope that I have your vote. Just like Sandra said, you can vote now between August. If you have your absentee ballot at home, please vote now. I'm the first one on the ballot for a public defender race. So just circle me in, Ruby Lenora Green. And then if you want to actually make it out to the polls, it's going to be August 8th through the 16th, and August 18th is the actual election day. So vote green for change to be seen.
Yes. All right. And so tell them how they can get in touch with you if you need people to help, like making phone calls, sending text messages. If they want to donate money, how can they get in touch with you to do those things?
Yes. Okay. So I have a website, voterubygreen.com. Once again, it's voterubygreen.com. And there's a little section there that says get involved. You can donate on my website as well. It'll take you straight on to the ActBlue. But I really, really, really would love if you can volunteer. I am a huge proponent that I don't think that campaigns should be about money. But I do need donations as well, because we always have something that we need to do. And volunteering is basically nothing. If you want to volunteer for polls, I am going to be taking some volunteers starting the 8th. all the way through the 16th. And again, on the election day, I will provide you with food, water, a shirt, mask. So you'll have everything that you need. And of course, this will be no contact. We're social distancing at the polls. So nobody's going to be, in close proximity to other people. We just want you to hold up a sign and telling them, vote Ruby Green.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, you said if you want to be seen or something like that.
Vote green for change to be seen.
Okay, vote green for change to be seen. All right, thank you so much, Ruby. I hope, I don't know if we had any questions. I didn't see any of the questions come up.
I wasn't looking either.
But if you guys have any questions, just put them.
Oh, Georgette, hi, sorry. Hi.
Yes, yes. So
that's my soror.
Yes, your what? Sorry.
My soror.
Okay. So if anyone have any questions, put them in the chat, and you're gonna answer them for them, right? If there's something that they wanted to know.
Yes,
like that.
I'm gonna answer your questions. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put it on here. I'm just checking my phone right here.
Yes. All right then. But yes, no. So thank you so much. I'm so glad you had a chance to come and talk to me again, and I hope the people saw like your passion for the position, so that you're gonna bring like more than just the fact that you're a Black woman, you're bringing like all kind of diversity to that position. You're part of that community that's been over policed, that ends up being part of the system. So you have a reference point that I think is also very important that comes with that job. So again, thank you. And then you got to have the last word and sign off, because I ended up talking more than I wanted to.
No, I kept saying, I felt like I had 5 last words. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you and taking the time out of your day, busy day, to speak with me and, put me on this platform. This is a great opportunity for me. If you would have asked me, 1,000 years ago, whether or not I'd be doing this, and I would have had no clue. But it's because of people like you that have created platforms for people to get out and talk about their life story and why they actually want to do what they do. It really is a blessing to me. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. All right, then. Have a good one.
All right. You too, honey.